We acknowledge that Tri-Cities Community Television operates on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nation. We thank the Coquitlam who continue to live on these lands and care for them along with the waters and all that is above and below.
Hi everyone, it's Cathy with Tri-Cities Community Television. We are here at Poirier Library, and we'd like to thank the library for donating their space to us. We are continuing our election series, and we're here with Craig Hodge. He's running for mayor of the city of Coquitlam. Welcome to the studio. I just also want to say that you were a city councillor for many years, and you decided to step up and take on the mayoral candidate role. So welcome, and it's great to see you again.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to get right into it.
Okay.
Tell me why you want to run.
Well, I've served on council for 15 years, and I think that leadership and experience is important. I grew up in Coquitlam, lived here all my life. I've volunteered in this community. I've worked my entire career in this community, so I feel that I have a lot that I can give to the community, and I want to continue the good work that today's council has done. I think we've got a great council. Mayor Stewart often refers to this as the best council that he's ever worked with. So I think that we have some opportunities to continue the good work that's being done, but there's also some things that we need to do moving forward. So I think it's a case of building on what we've done and looking forward to doing some even greater things in the future.
And we're going to get into your priorities in a couple of moments, Craig. Thank you. What's one issue that you believe matters most to Coquitlam residents?
I think for me, I've identified three priorities. I think managing growth is key. I think the other one is affordability and community safety. So I think those are the three things that we're going to hear most about in the election. And for different people, they have different priorities. But I think everything comes into one of those categories. If it's, transportation issues, well, that comes under the managing growth. And, if it's taxation or if it's about just the cost of living, then that comes into the affordability. So I think we're going to hear about affordability, we're going to hear about how we're going to manage growth, and we're going to hear quite a bit, I think, about community safety.
So the next question was about the three priorities. Do you want to expand on yours and what your platform's going to bring to the residents of Coquitlam, if you don't mind?
Sure. So I think managing growth is key. That's something that I've been very focused on since my time on council. Coquitlam has gone through a number of changes over the 60 years that I've lived here. But most dramatically, I think from about 2014, the last 12 years, with the arrival of SkyTrain. SkyTrain was the game changer for us. And that's when I believe that we went from being this just bedroom community to where we started to transition into what I think is becoming a really vibrant community with city center areas and things like that. So managing growth is going to be key. It always has been. We've seen areas that have undergone major transformations. The area around Coquitlam, for example. We're seeing at Coquitlam Centre. The shopping malls in that area are starting to redevelop and will be redeveloping. So I think that's going to bring us some great opportunities. It's going to bring us opportunities for more commercial centers, for shopping, for different types of housing. So those are going to be great opportunities. But with that means we also going to have to manage that growth. So that means how are we going to manage the traffic that's going to bring? How do we make sure that people aren't forced out of their homes? How do we make sure that there's a great range of housing? So we have everything for young people buying their first home, to seniors who are on a fixed income, to families that are downsizing, to people that want rental versus people who still want to have that little house with a backyard. So I think that those are some of the challenges, how we're going to manage that growth. And transportation is going to be a key one. We're going to have to look at not just our roads, but also how are we going to improve rapid transit, transit in general. We have SkyTrain, but not everybody can get to it. So we're going to have to work with transit to improve buses, particularly if we want to see less parking. Parking is costly to build. It's not great for the environment, so we want to reduce parking, but we can't do that without the alternatives. And in some cases, it may be just an increase in micromobility, more bike lanes. We're seeing an increase in the use of scooters. That brings its own challenges. So, how we're going to manage the traffic. I'd like to see an improvement to Westwood Street. I think in the city center area, there's too much traffic on Pine Tree. I think we have to look at how do we sort of move some of that traffic onto Johnson and over onto Westwood. That probably means working with the federal government to put an overpass or an underpass on the railway crossing there. So that would be one of my key priorities, is to try to distribute some of that traffic. I hear about the traffic concerns from people who live on Westwood Plateau. Now, there's an area that's not really going to develop much in the near future, but they're feeling the traffic pinch as they come down, from up on the plateau, as they come down Johnson, come down Pine Tree. And so we have to make sure that traffic moves in an efficient and safe manner. So traffic safety is going to be another big component of that too.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Housing, of course, is a major concern for many, many people. How do you balance growth and affordability and protecting the character of Coquitlam, with all of this?
And that comes down to, again, the managing growth. I think that we were being very responsible in the way that we were building. We were densifying near the SkyTrain station. So we built high. There was quite a shock initially for people in that area, but many of them sold their homes, bought homes in other parts of the Lower Mainland, probably did very well selling that home that they bought in 1960 for $150,000. I think that's about what my parents paid for their home when we bought in the mid 60s, and they moved on. But they then, by doing that, allowed us to densify and to build high rises. I don't think that my kids are going to be able to live in a home that they grew up in. We grew up with a large lot, but they also, I think, have a different lifestyle. My son lives in an apartment and he loves it. He's close to SkyTrain and he works downtown. Right. So, but I think ultimately he'd like to have a place with a yard. So can he then move from an apartment to a townhouse? That's what he'd like to tradition. At the same time, I got my mom who's living in an apartment. Now, where's she going to go into? She's going to soon, get to the point that she's going to need more help. So she's going to need a different type of housing. So I think we have to provide housing for everybody. In the last 8 years, we've built 34,000 units of housing. Now, some of it was apartment, some of it was townhouse, some of it was 6-story apartment, and we were still building some homes up on Westwood Plateau or up on Burke Mountain that were single family. Importantly, of the 34,000 homes that we built, 6,000 were rental. And that's really key, because up until 15 years ago, I think we probably built less than a dozen. Literally, we built 0 rental homes because the programs weren't there, the economics didn't make sense. And rental is important for young people that are moving out of the home. I've still got 2 of my kids living at home, so I'm looking for ways that we can move them into housing. So I think that what we have to do is, and it has to be affordable. Fortunately, we did 2,000 units of below market. 900 of it is already built and delivered. So we are looking at ways that we can also deliver affordable housing as well.
Right, because once the rental pool expands, our rents will hopefully come down and more people can afford them, and your kids can move out being able to afford their rents.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of it is
Yes.
supply and demand.
Yeah, it is.
Now, unfortunately, the province sort of threw a curveball into this, because what was working really well in Coquitlam, as I said, we built 34,000
Yes.
units.
Yes.
The province changed some of a lot of the requirements in the legislation around how we build and where we build. And one of the things that really concerns me most is what we're going to see happening in those neighborhoods where people maybe aren't ready for change. And with the provincial legislation that basically says almost any lot in British Columbia, you can knock down your house and build 4 homes, whether the sewer lines are there, the water's there, whether the schools were planned to be there. And so it's really gone against regional planning and what we were doing. And I think we were doing it in a very good and responsible way. So now one of the challenges is how are we going to manage that growth where we may see it spill into areas that we hadn't intended it to be there.
Right. Right. What are your plans around community safety, mental health supports, and emergency preparedness?
So I chair the UBCM's Community Safety Committee. I serve as the co-chair of the RCMP Contract Management Committee, and I was co-chair of a committee that was looking to reform the BC Safety Act. So I've been involved in a number of areas of policing. So that has served me well when I come to look at what's best for Coquitlam. One of the things that I'm continuing to advocate for is the hiring of more police officers. Now, Coquitlam is a very safe community. Our crime rates actually dropped last year. Statistically speaking, the statistics show that we are a very safe community. But people don't feel as safe as they used to. And so safety is a couple of things. It's not only what the stats show, but how people feel. And so I think that what we need to see is more police officers out on the street, particularly in the downtown areas. One of the things that I advocated for at the provincial level was the creation of a new level of safety officer. Because police are highly trained, they're very expensive. 25% of our budget is spent on community safety, so it is a big ticket item for the city. But do we need to have highly trained police officers walking the beat? Can we maybe utilize bylaw officers, give them more powers? Can we bring in community safety officers to work with people on the street as well? So maybe they have more of a health training. Maybe they have different expertise. So looking for the community safety model of officer, and that does require legislative change, but I think that's one of the things I'd like to see. Certainly, we've made great progress with our fire department. One of the things that I was a strong proponent of was a light rapid response team, a medic unit, to assist in the medic calls. So we're not sending a large fire truck to assist seniors or people that have had a fall or minor injuries. But one of the key things that I've discovered in all of this is that when a call comes into 911, the 911 operator is relying on the information of a bystander to make a medical diagnosis. Right. So quite often our firefighters will arrive at something, and I know of a case that just happened recently where the fire department arrived at a call, and well, actually I think it was a paramedic unit got a routine call for somebody who had fallen from bed. And it actually turned out that it was more serious, that it caused the fall. And so having our fire department respond quickly allows them to evaluate what the situation is and then send for, a paramedic unit or a higher response level. So this light response team is a quicker response unit. It's going to more of the medical calls, and they're able to give their diagnosis. They're trained as medical professionals. So I think that's really been a benefit to our community. So again, we're doing work on the side with the fire department. I'd like to see more police officers, more street patrol, and more traffic patrol in our neighborhoods on residential streets. And I think I hear that from residents all the time is speeding on streets. And so and in a lot of cases, that's visibility. You don't need a police officer on every corner every day, but if they're there, once or twice a month, people know they're out there, and then they start to slow down. So it's not about ticketing, it's about visibility.
Safety-wise, though, you feel Coquitlam's very safe?
Coquitlam is a very safe community. We're very fortunate that we're safe.
Crime went down, you said.
Crime statistics were actually, the major crimes went down, but you know what? We can't just rely on the fact that we had a safe year last year. It does require proactive policing. We need to make sure that we have enough policing on our gang unit. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that residents don't see, but they do impact our safety. And that's why it's important that police are doing things like cybercrime, all of the other stuff that's going on. And those are important aspects of policing.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about you.
Okay.
What's your leadership style like I know you've been on council, but now you're going to be taking on sort of the head job. So what would you say your leadership style is like if you become mayor?
Yeah, I'm very much about the collaboration. And when you're a city councilor, you're only one voice of nine. And so really when you become mayor, it's the same. And I know that there are mayors around the Lower Main that may take more of a I'm the mayor, this is the what we're going to do. But I come from 15 years of where I have to work with my city councilors. And I've been very fortunate to have a mayor that's worked the same way. So we do a lot of our decisions by collaborating. A lot of our work actually takes place at the committee level. I've heard people sort of say, well, why are your evening meetings short compared to other councils? That's because we do a lot of our work in the afternoon, where we have a lot of discussion and a lot of, I think, working through issues so that by the time we bring an item to the council table, staff pretty much know what's going to pass, and we've actually arrived at a point that not everybody's happy, but we've arrived at a point that we believe that we can all agree on, and that's something that we feel is acceptable to our residents. And so my approach is going to be to do a lot of work at the committee level, continue to let councillors chair those committee meetings. We're one of the few councils where we take a rotation through our committee meetings. And so that gives each councillor an opportunity to chair meetings. I'm going to use the acting mayors a lot during my time should I be elected. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hold more community meetings, even if it's sort of coffee with the mayor. So I'd like to sort of formalize a once a month, just drop in so that, people are always free to send emails and make phone calls. But I think it's also good to be able to just sort of say, whether it's the first Tuesday of every month, just drop by City Hall and the mayor's office is open and come on in and have a coffee. So I think that's one of the things that I'm going to try to do as the mayor.
Mm-hmm. That does bring me to the sort of more public engagement. A lot of people have misunderstandings about municipal politics, for example. What are you going to do to improve transparency and more public engagement with them?
And I think it starts with having those conversations and letting people know that they can come down to City Hall, have that conversation. We've had some talk about, do we change some of the evening meetings to allow for more public input? I mean, one of the things that the province did to us was they took away public hearings, and that was the opportunity. Then when public came and spoke, we still have them, but they're very limited in their use. So I think that we have, and of course, we've lost our community newspapers as well, or at least the print edition. Yes. So we have to rely more on community TV. We have to rely more on online and to create that information, and that's certainly helpful for getting the information out, but it's not always a two-way street. Right. And so I think that's why we have to make sure that citizens have an opportunity to be heard. And so I'm hoping, and I enjoy that conversation with people, and I think that gives us better ideas. And I know all of my colleagues, the current colleagues and those that are running, are really interested in that community engagement.
What's something that people don't know about you?
Oh, well, you know what? That's a good question. I have three boys. Raised them here in Coquitlam. Two of them are twins. So my wife, Darla, and I, she's a chamber member of the year, so she was active in chamber, as was I, past president of the chamber. So we raised our three boys on Burke Mountain. 18 months apart, so it was a crazy. Something you didn't know about me is I think I still hold the record for how many diapers somebody could change in under 2 minutes. But one is a paramedic stationed here in Coquitlam, and the other is the oldest of the three boys is an environmental engineer, works in a firm downtown, engaged to be married. I've told him not this year; it's an election year, so next year for the wedding. And my third son was a soccer player, and in his grade 12 year at Terry Fox, decided to try out for the football team. And apparently, he had a knack for kicking field goals, and he's had 3 CFL tryouts, most recently with Calgary. Played in an exhibition game, 2 exhibition games just a couple of weeks ago, and hasn't quite made the cut, but he's still, you'll still see him probably today down at Town Center kicking footballs and waiting for that call.
Yeah, well, I know you're very much a family-oriented guy. That's why I wanted to sort of speak about the boys, because I think I've known them since they were 9 or something, doing the cotton candy.
We were running a cotton candy
Yeah,
business.
running a business at 9 years old. You just put them to work right away.
Well, they started the business, and it's interesting because my time at the Chamber of Commerce taught me all about business
Entrepreneurship.
and entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And they learned a lot about having to have insurance, having to have WorkSafe, having to have health permits, having to have city permits, and so it was a good experience for them. And you might still see them down at Canada today. So they still once in a while bring out the cotton candy machine.
Last question for you. Why should the residents of Coquitlam vote for you?
I think that the residents should vote for me because I think I bring experience to the job. I think I proved myself as a community leader, certainly as a volunteer, and I know the community really well. I grew up in Coquitlam. I'm a resident of Coquitlam, and one of the things I talk to people about is this is our city, and I want to help make it a great place for everybody to live.
Love it. I love that we ended that way, Craig. Thank you so much for being in the studio. Today we heard from Craig Hodge. He is vying for the mayor's position in Coquitlam. He believes that he has the experience, the leadership, and he wants to make Coquitlam your city. Thanks so much for watching the election series. I'm Cathy Cena. Until next time.